Live stream, live stream, live stream, live stream, live stream. The morning live stream. Okay, welcome back to Darish Zone channel, and this is the final version of Commodore CD Deluxe 32 gigabyte. The final version, yes, is there. It's finished. Look. It's beautiful. I have a new camera today. I want also to test my nice new camera. The audio should be better, should be improved, and we hope the autofocus is good too. So it is the final version. Is closed and 6514 overall games. Great. Hi, Surround Gamer. Some people on chat. One morning, if you lost the live stream, no problem because you can see the cached version on YouTube. Okay, so um, here's all the systems included on this 32 gigabyte image: the Amiga AGA, Amiga CD32, with the great features of ISO genuine game. So it's like the real experience with improved music and videos. Fantastic. I'm sure most of you doesn't have the Amiga CD32 at the time, so it's a great discover. And some games are pretty interesting to enjoy today. The Commodore 64, fantastic set, 4007 games, and there's around 400 of cartridge releases. The cartridge releases doesn't have loadings and doesn't disk swoop. Is one file basically, and is comes handy for multi-disc games, like for example Project Firestart is a new way to enjoy these retro games. The Cody, I've included Cody because in this on this image there's a lot of old videos, uh, 80 videos based on Commodore 64 and Amiga. You can see all this video on this very old and very old-fashioned ad ads on the into the Kodi. So there's a bit of multimedia on this image. The Amiga, this is a selection Amiga games that you can play with a joystick. So if you hate the keyboard and want a very close to console experience type, just take a look at to this collection. Amiga joystick games on the Daisy Flash compilations. Daisy Flash is a new technology which is based on new technology. We talk relatively because is the cartridge technology of the Commodore 64 is just a programmable cartridge where people can add the code he want. They can make a compilation with lot of games included. It's a cartridge with a high memory space. So on this selection there's around 30 compilations and some of them has a lot of games, like for example Ultimate Plus, and most have around 30 40 games, but that one for example had 200 games on a one file. There's also the one file demos and the SID collection if you want to listen some tunes. I have to say this is a little confusing because when you enter the compilation I've set just a generic artwork for every compilation, but when you enter, you are into the Commodore 64 emulator, and you have a very simple basic list of games. There's not arts and there's not description, so it's a little confusing. But you have to consider these are like a bonus, just a sherry, because the great stuff is into the cartridge selection. The Commodore 64 cartridge selection. This is the old 391 almost 400 cartridge releases, which is also included on the main set. This is just a selection if you want fast access to the cartridge games. As I said, these games doesn't have loadings and doesn't have any disk swap, so very console type experience. The 64 is the same selection of the 64 console. The new version with the full size keyboard. So it's another goodie if you want the same. It's the same selection of the console. Should be 64 games, but I've included all the games included on all regions version of console. So the deluxe selection is based on 75 games. The custom collection, there's only one collection, in fact, is the DZ collection. Is around 50 games I've selected from Amiga CD32, Commodore 64, and all Amigas, the games that played on my childhood. Your taste may vary, but there's some very iconic games like Rambo, R-Type, Manic Mansion, Light Force, many iconic game. We have an Italian guy, Dead Fuel. Ti ringrazio molto per i complimenti. It's a refined work, just like the previous DC image, because I'm just I like all details, also the small details, and I've helped by a group of great guys, great retro lovers, which are maniac, detail maniac like me, and that they helped. For example, one guy, Franco Franchi, which take a name from famous comedians, Italian comedians, made a fantastic, and I mean fantastic, splash screens intro video based on Commodore and Amiga. And I already showed on previous live streams, you can see those fantastic. They played randomly when the image boot, and I've decided to disable by default, but you can also listen the navigation sound. Just go to sound settings and set one, and you can enable the sound. Don't forget there's also the background music. I've disabled the background music every time because for copyright issues with YouTube I have to turn off background music, but you are always with music, BGM music, and there's also a pretty nice visual player on the upper right side of the screen, and you can manage this player into the RetroPie options. You see this nice sound if you want. I've disabled this sound by default because by default you have the music, and this sound with the music is not fit so well. You can enable or disable the background music with this option. So the background music player is made by Mad Modder 123. So I have to thank him for this fantastic tool because it was not included by default on RetroPie. RetroPie Vanilla is very bare bone. So this is a old Commodore based image, and just before I close the image, I've decided to update to the last RetroArch version, the 1.8.4, and it was a very good decision because the last RetroArch have some new goodies. You will appreciate that. I will show, for example, let's play Bruce Lee. When you start the game, you have the retro launching. In that case, Commodore 64, which is the only emulator that uses the Libretro. You see on the left side, bottom side, you have this new system called widgets, the RetroArch widgets, which you aware you about operation like save state, load state, the joystick configuration, the joystick which is enabled when you open the emulator. In that case, is a generic switch controller. But in fact, it's the genesis of such controller, but the RetroPie recognized like switch. I don't know why, but it just works so. So into the Commodore 64, you have by default the overlay, the overlay made by the Z, and you can manage the overlay. Just remember this combination when you set the first boot, you set your controller. If you set the hotkey on select button with combination X and select, you open the RetroArch menu. There you have plenty of options. If you want to disable the bezel, just go to on overlay and overlay preset, and you have to select off. When you select off, back to quick resume, back again to RetroArch menu, go to overrides and select the option in the middle. Override save content directory overrides. You see the new widget just tells you you saved the content directory. So you save the overlay. If you don't like the overlay, it's disabled. And you have the visual keyboard. You can recall with the Y button. The visual keyboard with the Y button, and when it's open with the A button, you can make it transparent. In that case, I have to press F7. Remember, is the B button. Okay. So you can manage the game without a USB keyboard, but you can also plug a keyboard. In that case, the port is wrong. To change the port, just call back the keyboard and go to join. You see, press B, close the keyboard, and you change the port. I have to thank Google Base then. I have not noticed this fast port switching. Otherwise, you would enter the RetroArch menu. And so this is Bruce Lee Super Classic game. Okay, if you don't like the overlays, for example, you can stretch the screen. Go back to no, I'm wrong. Sorry. Go to settings, then video. Okay. Then go to and I'm sorry because the menu is little change with the new RetroArch. The menu will change, so I have to. Okay, on scaling, you see that you have to change it from core provider to 69 if you want and go to full screen. Okay, quick menu, resume, so you have full screen. It's wretched, of course. I don't like at all, but some of you don't like the bezel, so okay. And there's also Bruce Lee 2, which is super, 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 super hard game. It's incredible hard game. It's insane. If you want hard game, just go there and you will be satisfied. Satisfied. Buggy Boy, Cable. Okay, you see the overlay is disabled. If you want the overlay back, just go again, X, select, and go to overlay. You can change the overlay too. There's some Commodore 64 based overlay, or you can add a neon overlay taken directly from the neon image. The Exodus overlays, which are very cute, um, CRT type, television type bezel. No, this is a very this is very old. You see, if you want television type experience, just remember from the quick menu, go back to overrides and remember this option. Say content direct. You see the voice, the voice, the widget. However you correctly select the option. Rested lines. Cabal +8. Yes. You can go through the options when you have all these voices available with the CR and CR up and down buttons. Remember to press the A button to have transparency. So you see you can. This is the Vice Libretto Vice 3.3 version. Is the more evolved version of Commodore 64 emulator, and it's fantastic how it allow you to use the system without a real keyboard. You can go everything with the visual keyboard. I just removed all the text adventure because text adventure was too much extreme. Okay, I have to figure out how to start this game. The trainer screen are a little unnerving sometimes because they just complicated things, and there's no real need to make that. But okay, I got it. I got it. I have to start game with the return. You have to be a little patient. Remember that the input The input buttons are basically space, return, and RS. You will skip all the screens with those three commas. Just remember that is important. To skip that, I've pressed the B button because the no sorry the X button is mapped on spacebar. This is useful for some games that require the spacebar for throw grenades, for example. In that case, I would press 4 on keyboard to start game, but just go to the visual keyboard, go to 4, press B, and you're done. It's a computer, remember that. Oh, cable. I don't remember this version. I don't think I never played cable on Commodore, but I remember Operation Wolf, for example. Oh, there's auto fire. I have to say I hate. Oh, I'm dead. I see that coming. I have to say it, I hate some of Commodore conversion, but I love some of them. It's a very mixed scenario, but for example, I like this version of Cable, and I like, for example, Pac-Mania on Commodore, but I hate other sporting like Street Fighter. I know the arcade is not the ideal situation for the Commodore, but I repeat, there's some interesting porting you should discover. You see, with the X button, I throw the grenade. Damn, this hard. I should press the space bar on the original to throw grenade. In that case, ooh, you just need to press X button. It's already configured, so just enjoy your ooh. Oh, that was fast. I can avoid that. Damn. This is crazy hard. Okay, you can also decide if you want SF effects or the music. No, probably not. I just play on mute. Interesting. Okay, not bad, not bad. A pretty nice version of Cable. You can also play with two players, both on screen. So let's see Choplifter, another catch game, and another big feature is the save states. This is cartridge original release, I think, so it started without the okay. First sortie. Okay, if you strike X and select and go to save state and press A, you will save your game, and you see the left message on screen. Just go back to the RetroArch, go to load state, press A, and you will load back your game, and you can save when you want, where you want, because it's the emulator that manage this. It's not related to the game. It's a very software type save. just remember it takes some space on the image. There's around 2 gigabyte free, but remember the save space are expensive. So just take a look. You have the file manager. You can take a look to the ROM folder. If you have some save states, you can delete it, or you can manage it to through the FTP client, and you can